Like the atmosphere is just reloading again with a very similar pattern. We do have some lake effect snow to contend with for the next couple of days. What's falling right now is more associated with this area of low pressure, so it's more synoptic snow. It's on the larger scale where we will see the lake effect snow pick up later today, mainly tomorrow into Wednesday, as we're watching some very cold air move over the relatively warmer lakes and fairly ice-free lakes still. See, the snow is falling northern Michigan, some snow falling in the UP of Michigan, and then we'll start to see it pick up in intensity across the Lake Erie snow belt. And then, of course, in the Tug Hill Plateau, where we're likely to see some of the highest snowfall amounts over the next couple of days. So let's watch as we see this low pressure system. By the way, there's some wind packed into this system too. By Tuesday, we have the long fetch across the lake that's depositing snow. There you go, just south of Buffalo, some of the Buffalo South towns too, picking up quite a bit of snow from this. And then into the Tug Hill Plateau. Now, depending on the exact wind direction, of course, that's going to depend on who sees the most snow. But right now it looks between the Watertown and Syracuse area, and then between Buffalo down to Erie, Traverse City, Grand Rapids, likely to pick up some light snowfall accumulations as we head throughout the week. But then we get to the weekend and there's a whole nother system that's going to be moving through. So we really don't see too much of a break, at least within the next week, maybe even extending beyond that. UP of Michigan, that's manageable snow, 5 to 8 inches of snow. But look at this, 2 feet of snow in the Tug Hill Plateau, and Lake Erie snow belt, we're anywhere between 12 to 18. Steph?
Molly, when we come back, we are going to
welcome into America's Morning headquarters on this Monday, and deep breath. We hope that this week is a lot easier travel-wise than it was last week with back-to-back Winter Storm Blair and Cora. And now our pattern is pretty quiet. We have a lot of green on the map. We're good to go for so many of our major airports this morning. Could we see some slowdowns as the snow moves into Buffalo? It's possible, but that's an airport that is very accustomed to seeing snow. We're clear in Boston, Baltimore, Atlanta. That's a nice change, right? It took almost the entire weekend to get caught up from what happened with Winter Storm Cora and the snow and the ice. Trust me, I was caught up in that too. We have some rain moving around the I-10 corridor in Florida this morning. Tallahassee seeing some very heavy rain that will eventually move into the Jacksonville area. It'll sink to the south as we go throughout the day, bringing in areas like Tampa and Orlando. But where the air is cold enough across the Carolinas, perhaps you're seeing some flurries this morning just south of Charlotte, maybe even some freezing rain mixing into that. So be really careful out there. Not to mention that all of the moisture that's still on the ground might be refreezing. So it might be a bit of a slick commute this morning. Keep that in mind. The rain is mostly south of Atlanta. Heavy rain along the I-10 corridor from Tallahassee, now starting to move into the Jacksonville area and just south of Savannah. But here's how things progress as we go throughout the day. This eventually moves to the south and to the east, bringing in Orlando, Tampa through the overnight hours, eventually areas like South Florida. But notice how this loses a little bit of its intensity through the overnight hours. There's not much left by tomorrow morning, and there's not much to begin with too, about an additional inch of rain falling as we continue to watch this. Much drier for us tomorrow. And look at this slight, I guess we'll call it a warm up. We know it's warmer than where we have been. Near 50 in Atlanta, 55 in New Orleans, near 60 for you in Jacksonville. And that's where we're going to stay through Wednesday. But notice rain starting to move back into the Texas area, mainly South Texas and places like Houston, but the rest of us, pretty nice.
Oh, guys, over to you.
Well, firefighters from at least 7 states and Mexico and Canada are on the ground in Southern California, helping to contain the flames as fires burn out of control.
Senior national correspondent Justin Michaels is in Altadena, where the Eaton fire has destroyed more than 7,000 structures and killed at least 16. Of the rest of the Palisades, and we can show you also where the Eaton fire was here in Loma Alta Drive in Altadena. The before and the after is just utter devastation. And what's amazing is there's one house that has been spared in this picture. Oh, a couple other ones.
We don't know what those houses were made of, which direction, the fires came in, but look at how many houses. This is a high population area, and you have a few that are left standing, but most of them, unfortunately, are not.
Yeah, one that's still on fire even over here. Then, of course, you had the tankers up. They were trying to damper the wildfires. This is a neighborhood in Pacific Palisades, and it just burned right through these. And that was part of the problem, is that getting the planes up because it was so windy was not helpful. But once they did, you can see the fire retardant, which is that red that is still left on some of the trees here.
Once the winds get to 30 miles per hour, they can't do that, which that's actually pretty low. We're already seeing winds that speed this morning.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's going to get stronger.
Nitty-gritty details on this thing.
And we have plenty of time to do that. And at the top of the hour on America's Morning Headquarters, extreme fire risk increasing, moving across the Great Lakes too. And with that, we also have a low pressure system. Right now, we're seeing more what's called synoptic snow. It's on the large scale. But eventually, we're going to start to see some lake effect snow as we see a long fetch across the lakes, depositing snow in the Lake Erie snowbelt. And of course, in the Tugs. The Tug Hill Plateau likely to see some of the highest snowfall amounts out of the next couple of days. Winter weather advisories, you see those across the UP of Michigan, up towards Traverse City, Grand Rapids. But where we get into those lake effect snow warnings, Buffalo, down through Erie, and then up towards Watertown and just north of Syracuse. That's where we're expecting some of the highest snowfall totals, up to 2 feet. So eventually we start to see that lake effect pattern take over. By Wednesday, though, we don't have as long of a fetch across the lake. The winds turn more out of the northwest, and that's going to limit at least the direction and the path that this is going to take. And, as a result, some of the snowfall amounts. But then we get to Friday and then eventually into Saturday, and that's when we're gearing up for yet another system to move through. But in the meantime, now through Friday, here's a look at some of the snowfall amounts, up to 2 feet between Watertown and Syracuse, along the I-90 corridor, say in the Dunkirk area, 12 to 18 inches of snow, and the UP of Michigan, 5 to 8. That is what I call manageable snow for the UP of Michigan. We see a lot more, right? And we certainly can. There's not a lot of ice cover on the lake, though that number has started to go up with that cold air that we've had in place for the last couple of days. We've seen a sharp increase in some of the ice cover, just under 10% right now. But really, we have to wait until February and March when we get that cold, consistent air in place that we start to see some of the more ice cover, and that will effectively shut down the lake effect snow. But Steph, we're not there yet.
No, we are not there yet. Still ahead on America's.
It's Monday as we start off a new week here on America's Morning Headquarters, and flying today should be a lot easier than it was at the end of last week. And even the first part of the weekend, still trying to play catch up from back-to-back winter storms. Blair and then Cora did a number on some air travel. Now we're all green, good to go this morning. However, there are a few trouble spots we're still watching out for. Buffalo perhaps seeing some slowdowns today with some snow, maybe some de-icing going on. But look at all the green icons that we have. We'd love to see that from Boston to Baltimore, Atlanta, finally catching up after Winter Storm Cora, and then Denver, no problems as well. Perfect sunshine. However, as we go just south of Atlanta, there are some showers this morning. Heavy rain along the I-10 corridor, say in Tallahassee over into the Jacksonville area, even South Georgia. Areas like Savannah seeing some heavy rain this morning, and that's going to continue for the next couple of hours. So far, okay at the Atlanta airport. Temperatures are cold this morning. It's only in the 30s. As we go up towards Charlotte, between Charlotte and Columbia, seeing rain, 39 degrees and raining. That's not comfortable this morning, but cold enough that you might be seeing some flurries trying to fall from the sky, at least in the area between Charlotte and Columbia. Just south of Atlanta, down towards Macon, some rain. It's not very heavy. The heaviest rain along the I-10 corridor, stretching from Tallahassee straight into Jacksonville. As the day goes on, we'll start to see this area of rain move to the south and to the east, eventually encompassing Orlando, down through Tampa. But watch as we go through the overnight hours. We'll still have the rain moving into South Florida, but it's not as heavy and it's not as intense. Up to about an inch of rain. It's welcome. We need it in South Georgia and parts of Florida. Tomorrow we'll wake up with some rain in South Florida, but look at how dry we are across majority of the southeast, and warmer, right? We're back close to 50 degrees for so many of us. Stays the same on Wednesday, at least in Atlanta. Look at that chill moving into Nashville, and some rain starting to move into the Houston area and areas around South Texas, seeing yet another round of rain. Kelly?
Well, part of the